Hi, welcome to the show. Well, today, I always say I have a special guest, but today I have a special guest, the president of Linfield College, Dr. Miles Davis. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me here, Ken. It's an honor. It's a pleasure. I'm a big supporter of community television. What most people don't know is that my first major was in mass communications. I love this environment, so I'm happy to be here and share your passion and joy, and hopefully share a little information along the way.
All right, let's go right back to what you said. Your first major. Let's
My
talk
first-
about all your majors.
Oh my gosh, yes. You know what?
Let's get to know you just a little bit.
So I have a great deal of empathy for those students who switch majors because you start off thinking you want to do one thing. And quite frankly, between you and I, don't tell anybody that I said this, okay? But the ideal that a 17-year-old or 18-year-old has an ideal of what they're going to be doing 30, 40, 50 years from now is kind of weird to me. There are very few people who have a clear path as to what they want to do. Most of us don't, and most of us will change, which is quite frankly, without putting in a not too subtle plug here, which is why the type of education that we offer at Linfield is important, because the nature of work changes and jobs changes. So the most important thing is to develop the capability to think, but also some skills like writing well, speaking well, analyzing and interpreting information. Those skills will never die. But yeah, my first major was mass communication. Spent time doing internships at KYW in Philadelphia, at WHYY, and then Pittsburgh, where one of our heroes, which got an honorary degree from Linfield, Mr. Rogers, started in Pittsburgh. I think it was KQUD. I have to double check that, but it was K. Yeah, I won't think about it too much. But in time in the studio there, and I loved it. I also loved photojournalism, and quite frankly, another secret that I don't think anybody knows is that my original thought I would love to have spent time in some type of pastoral behavior because at Duquesne University, where I graduated from my undergraduate degree, first I did 2 years at community college for financial reasons, but 2 years after I went to Duquesne University, very much interested in comparative theology. I would love to had had the opportunity to just do that as a living, but then you get exposed to a lot of different things, and life continues to move on.
You were in the service
Yeah, so that's
after, after you graduated?
yeah, so that's a very interesting point. So one of the things is that I wanted to travel, and so coming out of school, I went to work, and one of my careers, and I do call them careers. People say, why aren't they just jobs? Because it's something that I love. Was actually in retailing. And I used to work for Bloomingdale's, a name that's not as known as it once was when I was growing up, but Bloomingdale's men's department, and loved clothing and everything else. But I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to see the world. And my opinion is that it's best to see the world when somebody else is paying for it. And so one day I was walking down Broad Street in Philadelphia, which is where I was born. I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And there was a recruiting station. And there was a guy standing there in this beautiful double-breasted blue Navy suit, nice white hat. The clothing got me, and
Like the uniform.
clothing got me, and so they came and found out that I had some particular skills that allowed me to qualify for a relatively specialized field in aviation warfare. And if anybody's ever seen that movie, An Officer and a Gentleman, where they put you in a Dilbert Dunker, that's real. They put you in there, and a lot of people freak out and they can't handle being turned around the water. It never bothered me, follow the bubbles and you're fine. It didn't disorient me, and spatial aptitude. I didn't always wear these glasses so I could see fairly well. And so the Navy was an important part of my life, and the chances that I got to travel around the world allowed me not just to understand the world better, it allowed me to understand myself better within context of a larger planet that exists.
Wow, so you came out and you probably already had some side hustles going, right? Isn't that what you do? You've always got something going.
So it's interesting that you say that because so my father would often say it's a poor man that only has one way to make a living. And so I was really into fitness. And I know it's hard to imagine now. But I was in the competitive bodybuilding, and my collateral response, because everybody has a collateral duty as an officer in the military. You have a collateral duty that you're assigned, and I ran the physical training program, and so and that evolved. And this was during the time, and I'm really dating myself now. If you think back a number of years of the craze where people were wearing those socks up and dancing around and doing things. I was part of that. Blame me. But I used to teach fitness classes. And I thought this is something I could do because I loved being in the gym. I loved working out. And I loved helping people be healthy. And so that was my first side hustle. But then going out from that is that once I got out, I found that I had something that was an asset to a number of companies. And one was a top secret security clearance. And so it allowed me to work in communities that a lot of people couldn't work in, and it's expensive to get one of those clearances. And so that was wonderful. But I also continued to advance my education. So I went and got my master's. I also launched a consulting business, very interested in technology, in the adaptive technology, but also how does that impact human beings and their behavior. And one of the things that I notice is that often companies promote the most technically qualified person, whether it is out of technology or whether it's even doing what you're doing. You take the person who's the best interviewer and you make them supervisor of all other interviewers, and that's actually not the best decision because your contributions as an individual are not the same as leading a team. So I became very interested in that. So
Helping people learn to lead a team.
helping people learn to lead a team and how to make decisions. Because one thing that I did learn in the military and through life, you have to make decisions. You know, even a non-decision is a decision. And most people don't realize that. When you choose not to take action, you have in fact taken action. There is no way not to engage. And your non-engagement is in fact engagement.
You know, I've heard you speak a number of times around the community, and I've heard a different life story almost every time because I think you've done so much that we can't do it all right now. I'm just going to jump from what you just said on you've got to make a decision.
Right.
Coming to Linfield, there's been a lot of decisions made lately.
Yes.
And there's still a lot on the table right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? This is the interesting thing is that when you come in, particularly at my level in the organization, when you're expected to not just manage, because manage is an activity that assumes a certain amount of a sort of passivity on the things in which you're doing, is you're just overseeing what's going on. That's not what is needed in higher education. I don't know what industry that's needed in at this particular point, but we use a lot of outdated terms or without clear definitions. And so as the president, part of what you embody as a president, and I don't care whether it's president of Linfield or president of Cascade Steel or president of the United States, you're supposed to lead. And what does the leadership look like? Is that you are supposed to embody the principles and mission and goals of the organization that you're a part of. And so thereby you are ultimately held accountable for the decisions that are made about the direction of the organization, and that's key to me. And so Linfield has had some challenges in the past. When I came, I was aware of some, and some I wasn't fully aware of. You can never know. It's like starting a relationship. You know, everything starts out wonderful in the very beginning, and you realize that this person leaves their socks all over the place and doesn't clean up or put their dishes away. You don't know these things until you're there, and it doesn't make them bad. It just means that you didn't know those things. What I did become aware of, that there were financial challenges, but there's financial challenges in all small liberal arts schools. And so the question becomes, how do you get out of that? How do you change that? And part of that is that you have to stabilize the finances. And what I'm very much aware of is that you can't stabilize those finances on the backs of students. And so if you look at colleges traditionally, they have raised their tuition ahead of inflation. So they're doing 4 or 5% increases, when even in Oregon, which is actually quite high, Western Oregon is quite high, the consumer price index is 3.5%. And so I would wonder, why are you raising tuition more than that? And so you have to get your cost under control because everyone is having a conversation about the cost of college right now. And so the decisions that I had to make were to stabilize the finances, make decisions about where we could invest and where we can grow, and that's part of my responsibility. And yes, we seek consensus, we seek input, but ultimately leadership is not a consensus activity. It's an informative activity, but what you're looking for is to make decisions because if you're held accountable for the decision, you have to answer for that. No one else can answer. It's a non-delegatable duty. And quite frankly, I get fired if I make bad decisions. So for those who don't bear that responsibility or accountability, it's an informative process. And so, but what you do is make sure that voices are heard and you understand how it's being impacted. And thank God we got past that last year. It's going to be another struggle this year, but last year we had a very successful year across all matrix. It's like a football team, and of course, Linfield has the winningest football record in history. Yes, I put that plug in there for it, but it's like football. It doesn't matter that Linfield has been winning since 1956. You know what? Coach Smith has to go out and do it all over again in 2020. And so the same thing now at Linfield. And so that's why we're talking about some of the things that we're talking about now in order to move Linfield forward.
For example, something that's they're going to be voted on soon
Yes.
is the name change, but it's more than that. Want to talk about that?
Well, absolutely. So it is not just a cosmetic issue. Right now, the challenge to Linfield College is an issue that got accelerated by what happened in Oregon last May when they voted on Senate Bill number 3, which was to allow community colleges to offer 4-year degrees. Now, that's not going to happen immediately. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And quite frankly, I don't know where they're going to find the funding in order to spend the money to get the faculty, the infrastructure, and everything else, because it's one thing to say you're going to do this, another thing to make it happen. But
It was a wake up.
it was a wake-up call. It was a wake-up call that we need to move quickly because I had been on admissions trips, and I had been in California and in Washington State where they actually have this. And we don't talk about this much in Oregon, but they normally associate college with a junior college.
The word college. Yeah, I'm from California.
Okay.
And junior college, what we call community colleges,
Right.
they call junior colleges. So, and even here, we call them community colleges. So this word college seems to be attached to two-year institutions, and that's what you found.
That's what I found. And I need to pause. I want to put in a plug for community colleges because a lot of people don't realize that I went to a community college for 2 years. They have a unique role, and quite frankly, I wonder if moving them to a 4-year institution doesn't undermine the purpose in which they were created. And quite frankly, we recruit from community colleges and junior colleges. They provide an opportunity for people to get stabilized, and there's a reason that they come to a 4-year institution afterwards. So I just want to put that in, is that I have a lot of respect for community college and community college graduates. And I think that the admission is being expanded. Then I wonder about how does that play in when you have state institutions and Oregon is blessed to have University of Oregon and Oregon State University, and so where's the overlap? But that's not this show, so we're not talking about that on this show. But that name undermines our credibility. It undermines what it is, and so when people think about Linfield College, to those who don't know Linfield, they asked, are we a junior college? Also, the additional aspect of that is that when we traveled international, let me be clear, I'm not putting in our hopes on international students right now because of the policies in our government, and this is not a political statement, it's just a matter of fact, is that since we're so restrictive of international students coming in, has been declining. I suspect at some point that will change. And so as somebody who speaks Spanish, as somebody who spends a lot of time traveling internationally, I never use the word college even now because it requires too much translation. The word university is universal.
Let's talk about the structure
Okay.
for people that might not, me included. know the difference between the structure of a college and the structure of a university. What's the difference besides the name?
Okay, and so one of the things that's inherent within the nature of a university encompasses schools and colleges. And so, if you think about any institution, and I don't know where you may have went to school, but if you think about any university, they will have a school of XYZ, or they may have a college of XYZ. And so, presently, Linfield already has a school of business. Not a school of business, it has a school of nursing. It also has predominantly been a liberal arts college and arguably a college of arts and science. It also has a department of business. And so those are normative components of a university because the disciplines are different. So at the minimum, and there are also subsets, and you can argue about different things. There are some schools that will have a school of education. There'll be a school of the performing arts. There'll be a school of professional studies. There'll be a school of the sciences. You can break it up a number of different ways. But what it does is that it'll be structured. The initial proposal that the board will be voting on would be a school of nursing, a school of business, and a college of arts and science. And that is because it is almost a reflection of the present reality of Linfield. It allows us to build and be more nimble and allows us to appeal and navigate for students that are coming into Linfield.
So we have possibilities of the structural change, and you get deans then. You have deans now at Linfield?
Yeah, so we presently have a couple of deans in different capacities, and I don't want to bore our audience with, what it means to be a dean of faculty or what it means to be a dean of student, because we have those roles out there.
Okay.
So what the dean of faculty oversees faculty as a whole. So what we're talking about is we already have a dean of the School of Nursing. We will have a dean of business, and we will have a dean in the College of Arts and Science.
Okay.
And that is important because what does the dean do? The dean is responsible. It becomes, if we were talking within the business world, it would be within a strategic business unit. It would be the president of a strategic business unit. That they're responsible and overseeing what goes on, even as they report up to the larger administration. So there'll be some things that will be consolidated, but also to allow for nimbler and quicker innovation that can come out by breaking out and allowing people to have independent operation. Also, a different level of responsibility and accountability. Because presently, everyone looks towards the Vice President of Academic Affairs and the Provost and the President to make the decisions of have the final word on a number of these decisions. Well, the deans are actually closer to it because when you hire a dean of arts and science, they know the field. They should have a breadth of knowledge. They're coming from that particular background to oversee it. Or a dean of the School of Business knows that. Or in the case of why we have a dean of the School of Nursing, because their accrediting body says that they have to have this and that a nurse has to oversee this. So it allows people who are closest to the work, which is a basic organizational theory maxim, those who are closest to the work, know the work best, is to work with that within that particular specialty.
So we've talked about name change, structure change. There's going to be some physical change at
Yes.
Linfield. Let's talk about that.
It's an exciting time because we're preparing for growth. A lot of places, unfortunately, are cutting back, and you can't shrink your way into growth. But people think that you can. I mean, people make cuts and then they cut to the bone and then they can't grow out of it. You can't do that. So you have to have plans for growth. And so we've been working on this for a long time. There's a foundation, and I'm not free to name it yet because the ink is not dry. But we have a commitment. We're comfortable with what they're saying. Is that it's offered us a 7-figure gift to contribute towards the building of a science building.
7 figures. Let's see. $1 million is 6.
So
this
there's
is more than $10 million.
something more than $10 million. Yes, you're very good with the math and the zeros, and so
that's going to be a building.
That doesn't get you fully there.
Oh.
I mean, it takes a lot to build these buildings, and if you're doing new construction, you can expect to pay some upward and above $25 million.
Okay.
But
That's the beginning.
I tend to be a bit of a fiscal conservative, and I don't like to build on things unless I have a certain percentage of money already in the bank. I don't like debt, and I don't like putting the college in debt, and I don't like putting myself in debt. And so we wanted to make sure that we had that, and this gift puts us over that limit so that we move forward. And same thing that's happening with a new turf field. is that we need it. It's Western Oregon. It rains. It gets muddy. It's difficult. And one of our women's teams in particular, our women's lacrosse team, and both our men's and women's soccer team play on this field. We have to stabilize that so that they can play and they can have an experience. One of the unique features of academic life in the U.S., which is very different than most other countries, is that you get to come to college and play sports. Most institutions around the country, particularly state-supported institutions, people need to be careful what they're asking for in this whole free college and tuition thing, because that when I'm around when I'm in other countries where it's highly subsidized, they don't have any athletic programs. Now, of course, some people will argue that maybe you shouldn't have that, but this is the American culture. And unlike other cultures where, like when I lived in Spain, the average person didn't leave home until they were 35 years old. That's not the United States. And we want our kids to go away to college. And so without mentioning any other names, because I don't want to give anybody else publicity, but there are schools that people go to just because of the athletic programs. They go and think about how different life would be on New Year's Day when you couldn't watch a ball game because there was no funding for these types of things. Athletics is a big part of academic life. The two are intertwined within the U.S. And so we have to make sure that even as we're building outstanding academic facilities, we also need to have strong athletic facilities for our students.
One thing I've heard you talk about a lot is the diversity of the students.
Yes.
And how, yes, there's a big price tag when you first look at it, but there's a lot of help to be had.
Yeah.
Would you talk about those things?
Yeah, so I want to make sure that it's clear. So one of the conversations that is taking place in this country, which has everybody concerned, is about student debt. And I don't want to be a bit of a contrarian, but I believe that the term is used improperly. There's a difference in my mind, and I'm going to ask people to explore that in their mind. There's a difference between debt and investment. If you put money into the stock market, do you call it a debt? You call it an investment. The reality is that you can actually lose money in the stock market, but you expect to have a positive return on the money that you put in. I look at education the same way, is that you're investing in yourself. And so you get to decide how you want to invest that money. So Linfield is by no stretch of the imagination the most expensive private school you can attend. But I also understand that sticker price for tuition, and we're talking about tuition alone, we can talk about total cost of attendance because that's controllable. But when you look at the tuition, the advertised tuition is $43,000, but very few people pay $43,000. And so for those of you who are considering or looking at that, or even if you're looking at other colleges, ask what is the discount. So there we offer all sorts of things. We offer things for academic performance. And so we have a Linfield tuition commitment right now that if you are a high-performing student in the top 5% of the class, by March 20th, you're there, you're enrolled, you're going to pay $12,000. And
Wow.
that's the same
That's
price.
less than a third. That's 2/3. That's a
And that's the
quarter off.
same price of tuition at Oregon State University. And
Oregon State.
So because we made a commitment that we want high performing students who would do well in Linfield's environment, because Linfield's not for everybody. And so those who want to go to a larger institution and are much more comfortable being in a class of 200 or 300 people, they need to go to Oregon State University. If you want to be in a class where it's a more intimate, people know you, where I'm going to say hi to you, professors are going to say hi to you, they're going to know who you are, and you want 20, 25 people at the most in the class, you come to Linfield. It depends on what you want to do. But I think that's the beautiful thing about this country, is that you can make that choice. You don't have to pay that price, and then if you perform, you pay price. So I tell kids, and so for those with for parents with children who are entering college, particularly if they're around 14, you need to listen to this piece, which is that for every class past your sophomore year that you're getting a C or beneath in, it's costing you about $8,500 in scholarship. Because schools like Linfield and others love to have high-performing students.
come back. So the later years are less expensive at Linfield, isn't that right?
Well, the later years are expensive, but also from going into the process from high school, there are things you can do to reduce your total cost of attendance.
Oh, and sophomore in high school.
I'm talking
That's
about
what's
sophomore in
costing
high
them.
school.
Yeah, I get you.
So what's costing them in high school, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear about that, is that because what we do is look at your GPA
Yes.
and how did you perform in those classes like geometry? And how did you perform in those classes like biology, chemistry? Are you likely to do well? And you also need to look at something called the total cost of attendance and the graduation rate. Linfield, within 4 years, graduates 65.4% of its students, and within 6 years, it graduates over 90%. Look at, and I'll just say it because I never like to say anything negative about people in public, but look at the graduation rates of some of the state institutions. I can tell you unequivocally that we graduate in 4 years more than as a higher percentage than those who graduate within 6 years, which means that even though they are charging you less, it's costing you more. It's a math problem. It's a math problem. So even if you're paying $12,000 a year and you're there for 6 years, you're paying $72,000 a year. And so let's take a realistic number. If you're paying $22,000 a year to attend Linfield and you're there for 3 years, then you're paying $66,000. So even though the cost was more, it's less to attend Linfield. And quite frankly, the payoff is better because we just got the data that shows that Linfield graduates are the highest paid graduates with a 4-year degree in the state of Oregon. They're making $76,500 a year. That's an incredible record to stand on. And so even if you take out a loan, even if somebody's giving you money or you're investing, you're sacrificing, you're working for yourself, you're going to make that back in the following year if that is your criteria. And I say if that's your criteria because quite frankly, there are also important things that you learn at college that you can't monetize.
Now, there's another statistic that comes up for me. You say
Okay.
these are the advantages to go to Linfield. Christy McKay was on my show with career development.
Yes.
Career development. I think there's some good news there, too, right, as far as Linfield goes.
We place students at an incredible rate in career development. Our students are in high demand because they're coming out for quality education. The students that we get that come to Linfield realize that they're going to do more than just prepare for a job. They're going to actually learn how to be prepared, to think and be adaptable to the world in which they find themselves in. Part of our mission is to connect learning, life, and community, and that they're going to be a high performer to make them highly valued, and thereby employers seek them out. And there are some special things that we have coming up that I can't preview with you yet, but I will tell you this, that our career development service is very innovative. Michael Hamilton, who runs that office, is incredibly bright and think about how do we serve our students and how do we serve the community. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. You know that we have a wine studies program. That wine studies program was funded by the Evanstad family, Domain Serene, because, they are looking for high quality workers. And then we partnered with them. Linfield partnered with them. They funded. They gave us a size. It's in the paper, so everybody knows this. I'm not saying anything out of school. They gave us $6.5 million to underwrite a program to reduce wine studies. Why? Because Yamhill County is the heart of Pinot Noir country, and they were having a problem attracting people working in those industries of a high quality. Now we have a wine studies program. So again, it's connecting the learning opportunity with the needs of industry.
I did hear some good news about the mean salary of Linfield graduates.
$76,500 is that we have the data coming in, and our nursing, and that's taking out nursing because those who really understand this know that often nursing starts at a higher pay rate than others. But all of our students are doing well, and our nursing students are doing even better.
And that's outstanding in Oregon.
It is outstanding,
That means
particularly at a place where most people in Oregon are making about $35,000-$40,000.
I know you want to teach people to think and be prepared to read and write and do what we're doing, have intelligent conversations.
Imagine that.
However, people that graduate do well.
They do well, exactly. It's a mix of, because so one of the things in our mission statement is that we combine both theoretical and practical knowledge. And so that's what I think that is important. I think it's important, the 10,000 foot view thing is that it's important for our democratic republic to have people who can think. The practical thing is that if people are coming in, particularly as this year, as we got 43% of our students were first year students, they want to be employable and they want to lead a better life. You can do both at Linfield.
Well, we can start our second half an hour right now, but I think we'll better quit. Thank you so much, Dr. Davis, for
Thank you,
being here
Kid.
with
Thank
me
you for
today.
making the time and making this happen. I appreciate you. I wish you and your family the best on the holiday season.
You too.
Okay.